It's being reported that Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson are close to a fight for late April. Great for them. I'm hearing both fighters have signed off on an agreement. Hopefully that fight is announced soon, and a hell of a fight it is. And a fight that should be rewarded, and if it comes through to pass, fighters who should be rewarded and fighters who should be praised. I talk a lot on this channel about fighters who are content with mediocrity. I rail these fighters on these channels, and we also need to praise guys who are behaving like fighters. And we need to reward fighters by putting them high in our rankings, by praising them on social media, by praising them on YouTube, by putting them on pound for pound lists who actually behave like fighters. And if we don't do that, we're gonna in turn in the future get less and less and less fighters who behave like fighters. More praise for guys who actually fight the fights and get in there and fight their top peers, other than praising guys who would rather fight more on Twitter, on Facebook, than they do in the ring, and would rather hand the responsibility of legacy over to their fan base to argue on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and fight their mythical battles for them. Enough with fantasy matchups, enough with mythical matchups. No, we need the real matchups, and we need these fights to happen in the ring. So when an Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson happens, praise them. Praise them. Because these are the fights that need to happen. This is the first unification fight at 130, I believe, in a long time, if I'm reading that correctly. And both of these guys, Oscar Valdez had a tough 2021. I mean, he fought Burchelt. He was a heavy underdog in that fight, had a tough fight following that. And he's following that by fighting a guy who is, he's up there, man, as the top handful of pure boxers in the sport. That is a tough matchup. And Shakur Stevenson, you got to praise him too, because he had a not so good showing against Nakathila in a shutout. Didn't look great in that fight though, but he came back with a vengeance. He heard the criticism, came back with a vengeance against Jamel Herring in one of the best performances of 2021. And when I watch this guy, he's on my handful of guys on that list of the potential and the talent being off the charts and undeniable. It just comes to the point where, is he going to realize that potential and talent? I talk about that all the time with fighters. Just talked about that with Boots Ennis. Shakur Stevenson is being aggressive following the Nakathila fight, and he should be praised. He's coming back off of the win against Jamel Herring and bouncing back quick and saying, I'm not afraid of Valdez. Bring him. Let's do this at 130. And when Shakur Stevenson is saying this stuff about wanting to fight the top guys, he's following it up with action. So you believe him. You believe him. And if you have a guy with this much talent who is going to be aggressive with his career, this is the type of guy you can see at the top of the pound for pound list within 2 years. And the beautiful thing about Valdez versus Stevenson is not only does it have big implications in the division, not only is it a unification fight, this has pound for pound implications. The winner of this fight will catapult into the top 10 pound for pound rankings. There's no doubt in my mind. You win this fight, you're a top 10 pound for pound guy. When I analyze this fight, I think it's a tough matchup for Oscar Valdez. I'm seeing that it's close to even odds. I'm jumping all over Shakur Stevenson on that early, because I think as the fight gets closer, the odds will actually get wider for Stevenson, because I think he belongs as a 2.5 to 3 to 1 favorite in this fight. Stevenson's tough, man. He is tough. And Valdez is too, but Stevenson is tough. And I'll be talking about that more as time goes on, because we'll have a lot of time to analyze this fight. But pound for pound implications here, these guys should be praised. praise more guys like these two guys, like Canelo, like Chocolatito, like Bam Rodriguez and Carlos Cuadras, like Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor, people who are actually taking on the toughest fights out there and toughest competition, and shun the fighters who would rather fight more on Twitter than in the actual boxing ring. God bless.